All right, we're going to start with some questions. How many people in here are developers? All right, about half. All right, how many people are designers? Even more? Okay, how many people work in small teams or groups?
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're in the right place. This is Jessica,
Hi.
David, and I'm Max, and we are the development team at Brandco. And today we're going to be talking about how to grow a small team. As we all know, it's hard to work in teams. And what we've done is we've put together the 3 C's that we kind of live by. And those 3 C's are communication, collaboration, and change.
Okay. So we'll go ahead and just jump right into communication. So talking's hard, right? Can you guys hear me in the back? No? I'm sorry. It's like I said, talking's hard. You know, I'm standing up here. This is the first time I'm giving a talk at any event since college, I guess, which was quite a while ago for me. So trying to relearn how to communicate. Now I've learned how to communicate with a small group of people, and now I'm communicating with all of you guys as a large group. So I'm kind of growing myself to change for the people in the back. So the 3 things I'm going to focus on for communication are some techniques that we've kind of decided that that's working best for us, and it might not be for everybody, but one is Agile Development. If anybody's heard of that, it's kind of popular right now. Strengths and weaknesses, working with your own strengths and weaknesses and the weaknesses and strengths of your team. And communication with clients, which we all love, right? I know that's our favorite part. So Agile Development, something that's really new to me, so I won't even spend too much time talking about it, something that I've just been introduced to. David's kind of been guiding us through that process, but it focuses on adaptability and changing. So we have short meetings every single day so we can see our smiling faces and talk about what's going on in our day. What have we been working on? What were we working on yesterday? The goals of today, and what's impeding us. And that's kind of what we're focusing on. And that might not be so much to have everybody else help us, but at least we're all in the know, and we're all communicating together, and we're all on the same page. Strengths and weaknesses. We all have strengths and weaknesses. If you think you don't have weaknesses, more power to you. I'm jealous. I would definitely say that my own weakness is being a very visual learner, and sometimes that makes it a little bit more difficult for me to learn concepts. And coming to talks like this, a lot of it's audio, and they're just telling you, just throwing ideas at you, and I'm not picking up anything. It's way over. But David's great at that, and he's a wealth of information. He could talk to you all day about a tool, and that's not bad. We love him for it, but he could talk your ear off. And Max, I know it's probably not clear. He's been practicing that introduction probably for the last week, but normally he's very, very quiet. You wouldn't get that guy to say anything, but he's super, super agreeable. So we all are kind of playing off of those strengths and weaknesses. And then communication with our clients. How many times have you been going back and forth with a client, and they're telling you stuff, and they're like, something's wrong with blank. This product's not working. And you're reading it, and you're like, clearly you don't know what you're talking about. I made it. I know how it works. You're just dumb. I think we've all had that moment. Then you get on the phone, you call them, and you realize, uh-oh, they're right. It doesn't work. Has anybody else had that? Just happened to me. I wrote that note yesterday because it happened to me just a couple hours before that. So if you're not open to communicating, you've already got that idea in your head that, no, I'm not communicating. I already know what's going on. I don't need to talk about this. And you're going to get yourself in trouble. So you always have to be open to that communication.
So our next C is collaboration, and there's a lot that goes into collaboration. It can, some people can consider it to be the same as communication, but there's actually some subtle differences. So I'll start it off with a question that has to do with collaboration. How many people check their email every day? How many people use their email as a task management tool? Ooh, okay, actually about the same amount of people. That's surprising. So this can actually work pretty well for you if you're the only person that's checking email. If you're running a one-man shop or you're a freelancer, you being the only one that checks your email, that's going to work wonderful for you. But if you're growing a small team, especially if we have emails coming in at dev@brandco.com, there's, sometimes there's things that you're going to miss, and things that you're not going to be paying attention to. And the first solution that a lot of people will jump to is CCing each other in every single email that you send out. Not only do you send that email to that client, but you CC all the other developers on it, and all of a sudden your email becomes 2 or 3 times as long. And in many cases, that's a good thing. But it can create a lot of clutter. The second solution that some people will use is shared email inboxes. And I forget the name of the tool. What's the name of that tool? Shared email inboxes?
I don't know.
We have.
Put me on the spot, I'm sorry.
There's one tool. There's a tool that essentially is a shared email inbox, and people will log into this one email account, and whenever you send a reply, Help Scout. So essentially, it allows everybody to have their own email addresses, but when you send emails out, it automatically notifies everybody in the team. So, yeah, but essentially, this creates a second email inbox that you have to log into. So again, you're spending more time in email. So our solution to this is using a task management system. Now, how many people here are using a task management system? Awesome. So task management systems, honestly, there's a lot out there. We personally use Teamwork. There's another one, really popular one out there called Trello. And some people just opt to use the to-do list applications that come with their Macs or iPhones. And honestly, all of them essentially kind of do the same thing, but the real question is, what's going to work best with your team? And if maybe one person loves it, your task management system, but everybody else doesn't like it, then maybe it's not the best solution for you. And speaking more on that, sometimes you don't need an advanced task management system to get things done. For instance, when we're launching our websites, what we do is we actually have a progress website tracker in a Google Doc. And essentially, we keep that up on a TV in our little office area, and essentially at any time anybody can walk by and see, oh, these sites are in development, these sites are in beta, these sites have just been launched, and we can even have things like calculating dates. So how actually this site has a red marker on it, it's been in development for too long, what's going on. So it kind of helps you, we use that to help visualize like what we need to do and what we need to pay attention to. So another example of collaboration that we have used as developers is version control. And now, I'm sure you guys have heard a lot about version control. Can I see a show of hands? Who's using version control right now? Awesome, glad to hear it. So what version control allows us to do as a team is every single time we commit code to any site or any repository, is we can actually be notified and see, hey, Max just deployed something and I noticed that the CSS syntax might be a little bit off. Or, and I've even been called out on things like that too. So, being open to different tools, and version control is definitely for developers like top on my list. We currently use Beanstalk, but GitHub and Bitbucket are also amazing for that. So the collaboration can also go outside of the development team. So can I see by a show of hands how many people, developers in the room, how many people have gotten a design and say to themselves, WTF, are you serious? Yeah. How many designers in the room have seen their design go to the developer and it gets launched and the designer says, WTF, are you serious? that collaboration, what happened was you guys missed something. You know, you're doing using a waterfall method. It goes to the designer. The designer makes it without talking to the developer. It goes to the developer. The developer maybe has one tiny chat with the designer, but that's it. And then sometimes the developer can say, oh, well, I think it should be built this way, when that's not what the designer had in mind at all. So having what we've actually done very recently that's helped us immensely is having the developers in with the original consult with the client. Usually it was just the designer having this talk with them, and now it's both of us. And when we walk out of that, and we also have our success coordinator in that talk too. So as soon as that talk ends, we get out and we just start talking ideas back and forth. So all of a sudden, we're creating a better product beforehand, and we're saying, no, I don't think that's a good idea, or yes, this is a good idea, and it saves time. I think one thing that brings collaboration together is having standards and a process. So I know for me, what I did back when I was freelancing way back in the day, I just had a short list of tasks. Do this before I start the site, do this during the site when I'm building it, and do this right after. So maybe publish on social media, things like that. And that list would get bigger and bigger and bigger. And for me, it worked, but also having a process that I would do that with your team and have this process listed out and show it to your CEO, the person in charge, show it to your designer, show it to your developers. Are we all on the same page? Does this make sense to everybody? Is there something that we might be missing that, you know, we could, or if there's a client who we have a hard time with, we can change that process so it's better the next time. And keeping everybody very informed with what's going on is very important. In addition to that, we try to define roles, so knowing who's in charge of what is extremely important. And having those daily meetings helps us understand, okay, you're taking care of that? Okay, awesome. Lastly, we have recently added a new part to our process. It's quality assurance. So we have a beta link, and sometimes when the developer gets done with that site, they just send it straight to the client. And we'll do some basic testings. Most developers know generally I should do this or test that. But having a third person that's not a designer or developer looking at it, that's where our success coordinator comes into play. It helps us, they're thinking about it as a user, not as a developer or designer.
Dramatic pause for change. Hopefully my face has returned to a normal color. So do you guys remember Flash websites? Change can be great, am I right? MySpace? No, well, I mean, if you guys still have one, I'm sorry. But one thing we can tell you about change. Oh no, I'm not on the right thing. Will you, I have my own notes on my laptop, I'm trying to control it from here. That everything always changes. And I changed my mind about how to say that a few times. But I think you guys understand what I'm saying. So if you're on a team and you have new people coming in, well, let me backtrack a little bit. We started out with 2 people. Then we started out with 1 person for a little while. Now we're at 3. Now we're looking to bring on even more people. And our CEO came to us and said, we need to develop something that works no matter how many people we start bringing in, no matter where they are. So we were forced to change. And sometimes that can be scary, especially when you get new people in, they have fresh ideas. They're like, well, this is how I did it at my last job. This is how I think we should do it. And you are very, very used to doing it a particular way. You think that your way is right. And sometimes that can be really scary when you have all of your team saying, yeah, let's follow this new guy. That's a great idea. And you think you're going to get left behind. You have to be open to change. You have to be willing to adopt things that work, let go of things that don't. Or if you don't even know, you got to be willing to try it, right? If you never tried anything, where would we be if you didn't try anything new? Somebody had to come here the first time. I came to WordCamp Orlando my first time last year. And now I'm up here talking. Faces, whatever color it's going to be, trying to communicate. And a lot of these things have really worked with each other through this presentation. All the 3 C's. Really, you have to have all of them. It's very cyclical. So that's kind of like the introduction to change. And I won't sit here and bombard you with, you should change. If you're not changing, you're just being static. And I won't do that to you. But another way that you can kind of motivate yourself to change, it's not really yourself, it's your clients. Your clients are always going to push you to change. I saw this really cool feature on this site. Why isn't that on mine? You just gave me my website last week, but this guy's is way better. So can you do that? I don't know how to do that. You have to change. So your clients are always going to start pushing you. And if that's the only thing that's pushing you, at least you've got that. Because they're out there, they're looking at other websites and they're like, yeah, this is great, this is really cool. But you want to always be a little bit ahead of them, you know? For better or worse, you have to be willing to change. I had it very profoundly written on my notes as my kind of end thought there. And we're going to actually show you a picture of all the things that we thought of just in this last year, most of them in the last 3 months. We have changed into or taken away from our processes. That's our whiteboard at work. So everything written in black and crossed out in red, it doesn't look very red, but those are a lot of things that we started to take out of our process or change about the way we do work. We should also add on there no more doodles on the board. And then all the things in green are things that we started adding to our process, or what we started changing to meet the needs of our clients and the needs of the product that we wanted to push. I don't know if anybody up there is like, yeah, no, don't use that anymore. Microsoft Outlook, yeah, no? All the questions, just till the end. I promise we're almost done. I don't think my face can take much more of it. Okay, and then I think we're going to wrap that up there.
So again, communication, collaboration, and change. These are the 3 things we feel like we've worked on the most in the last year. And with that, I'm going to open it up to questions. This is a panel discussion, so feel free to ask very open-ended questions or things that are just on your mind about growing a small team. Yes?
I want to know why if you have flash crossed out, why you have strong beds, consummate tea, dragon drawn on the other side.
Hey, just for comedy, okay? Anybody else? Did you have a question here?
Well, it wasn't about small groups or small teams, but
Sure.
I noticed you had sliders crossed off on there, and that's what a lot of our clients ask for.
Yeah.
Even though usability-wise, they may not always work.
Right.
But
Yeah.
is that kind of the reason? Is it a usability standpoint, or what can I use to combat that sometimes?
I feel like we crossed out sliders. That was more wishful thinking.
That makes more sense.
Yeah, a lot of our clients, I think, want that too. I would say every 3 out of 5 sites have one on there somewhere.
Somewhere.
So that was wishful thinking. I'm sorry. Didn't mean to bring everybody's hopes up. That we found some new way for sliders.
And I mean, there's this one site, I'm not sure if anybody else knows it, it's like, you should not use sliders, or it's a Google, I forget what the...
Carousel.com.
Say it.
Should I use a carousel.com?
Should I use a carousel.com? That has some awesome statistics. Essentially what it is your conversion rate goes down. So when we have that initial talk with the client, we kind of explain, hey, that conversion rate is going to go down a little bit. And when people have, if something only stays on the screen for 7 seconds and then goes to the next one, then sometimes people need a while to look at it before they actually click on it. So there's some statistics that go behind it, and we can give our best suggestions. But again, if that's what they really, really want, but we just try to give our advice and say, hey, we're the professional here, trust us. We've seen,
That works.
yeah, sometimes.
So what is your best suggestion?
We are definitely, we like static pages, and I think one thing that we've been doing a lot recently is actually those full page, home pages, like an image that just takes up the whole width of the home page, and we'll throw in something like parallax or maybe some other call to action where we're splitting it in half, and but we have some awesome designers, and they seem to come up with some really cool ideas.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what it comes down to, is if you want to avoid drawing attention just with moving content, because that's more development side, you really have to trust your designer to draw the eye using artistic techniques, which I don't know anything about, so don't ask. But I think that's really popular right now, is using really, really good design to guide you to what you want to look at versus a slider being like, look at me, I'm moving.
Yeah. Yes.
Question regarding those crossing things. The comment is, why would you cross animated GIF?
Yeah.
Our CEO did that. We all did not have he was thinking more of like when you used to go to old websites and you had animated GIFs, like as your splash page or something. So he was thinking of that. Well, we were thinking of of like cat GIFs. So we were like, that's not bad at all. But
Cowboy coding. That's the one I actually want to ask. I'm not familiar with it.
So cowboy coding, what that refers to is editing files on the live server. So that means I know what change I need to make. So I'm just going to log in via FTP, which is the worst one, and I'm just going to change it and save it, and then go to the site and see if I broke it. And so what you should be doing is you should always have a local version, test locally, and then push up the changes after that. And the step further after that is like pushing it to a testing environment on the internet, then push it to So there's a lot that can go into that, but a cowboy coding, you shouldn't be editing live files on the server.
I think me and Max got in trouble for that when we first started. David's been with Branco a lot longer than Max and I have, and he found out that we were doing that, and he was not, no, don't do that.
Yeah.
As a small agency, my question is really specific to your process. Website, let's say we're talking about a new website launch. What kind of quality controls do you have in place as a part of the launching process, as a team?
That's a good question. Honestly, the list just keeps on growing. That's what happens, and it's you. I think the most recent one that we added, and honestly, this should have been on there, is testing the drop downs, because we'll build the site and just not we just won't build it with drop downs because that wasn't in the design, and we launched the beta. We tested everything except for that, and sometimes when a client just sees one imperfection, they're just like, obviously you guys don't know what you're doing. And you just like add it to the list. So the list just keeps on getting bigger, and that's why it's better to start early, because if you start it now and have that process in place and have a master list somewhere and everybody knows where that is, you can just keep on adding to it, make sure everybody has access to it, so if something happens to them, then they can add to the list.
It's truly changing every single day. I mean, that sounds like an exaggeration, but every day we find something, even on old sites, and we're like, we really should not do that anymore. And you kind of, or somebody else used to do that. I'm glad we don't do that anymore. But the list, every day we're adding, we have a little like check off, and it feels really good to check those things off as you're going through it. But that would be under the change portion. Yes?
Is it only the dev team that does that quality control, or do you have outside eyes as well?
We have a design meeting with them. So we have the preliminary design meeting where it's like, okay, this is how the client's wanting it to function and look. And then afterwards, we show the designer, this is what we did. Here's all the drop downs. Or in that case, we forgot them. But everything that you showed us, it's in here. And they give us feedback on, yes, that's what they're looking for. Or no, I don't think that works right now that I see it. And that happens, frequently. I'm sure that happens with everybody. It's like, now that I see it working, it doesn't work. So it's a back and forth. It's never just a final QA. It's always changing.
Yeah, like that. Yes. Oh, I'm pointing to two people.
Sorry, go ahead. You do it.
In the front.
Talk about the tool where you can see that you guys keep up about the progress of a website. We have trouble sometimes with other departments not knowing how much we have on our plate, and that might be a good visual.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
What tool was that?
Uh,
Or what do you-
That is Google Doc.
yeah, just a
Just
Google
a
Doc.
Google Doc.
Google Doc?
Yeah.
But you said it flags it red.
So it's like an advanced Excel sheet.
They have like conditions, so if it's like, we do like days, so if it's like less than a certain number, it'll be a certain background color.
Right. If the project started on Tuesday, we've given ourselves 2 weeks to do it. So every day past the 14 days, it starts making it a different color so that everybody who's included on that document can start seeing how bad we're doing.
Yes, in the front.
Do you guys have a sample list that you can share?
Talk to me afterwards, and I can send you a few things. Yeah, we'll be at the happiness bar a little bit today, or at least I know I'll be. So yeah, feel free to stop by and ask any questions you want. In the very back. Hey.
It's kind of, I missed the very beginning, so maybe answer this. You said you're 3 now, and you're looking to grow. Am I understanding that right?
Yes.
So how are you determining the pain points of who you're looking for to grow? Like, are you looking for designers, developers? How are you choosing the order that you grow?
Gotcha. I think honestly, we try to find out where we're weak, and try to find somebody else who's strong in those skills. And I think, honestly, that's an obvious thing. But honestly, it doesn't really come down to your skill or how good you are at what you do. What really matters to us, I think, is, are you a good fit? And I think you could talk to anybody and they're going to tell you about, like, oh, I made these websites and this is what I do and these are the things I have made. But I think a lot of the times the question you want to ask is why? Like, why do you develop sites? Why are you passionate about what you do? And I think that's going to tell you, hey, this person is not just making a website or two and they're done, and why did they choose to be a developer, or why did they choose to be a designer, and what makes them passionate about what they do and what inspires them. So I think that has really helped us, and we actually have our 4th guy coming in. He is working part-time, but he's coming in starting on Wednesday this week, so that should be exciting.
Quote unquote lackey.
Blackie.
The do boy is what I've heard floating around.
Yeah. Yes.
Within the last year, what would you say has been the biggest change to your process in terms of development or design or anything, like the biggest adaptation you had to make?
Should we? Does everybody want to pick one?
I'd say responsive.
That's
We
my
just
pick
started
too.
doing that. Our designers just started basically designing responsive sites, so we weren't doing that, I don't know, how many months ago.
2 months maybe?
Well, that's every site. So now every site we have is responsive, 100%.
Well, I think, what we're trying to say, I think, is that we kind of hit the ground running with that because all of our sites were in a 960 grid, and we never deviated from that, and then just one meeting, every site's responsive now. No warning, nothing, just right now, every site from now on is going to be responsive. I even want you to go back and do the last one that you were just about to finish and make that responsive too. And not that that change was good. I mean, I think that we all should be doing that to all of our sites, but that was a really big kind of like shock value change. Like, oh no, now I'm doing a little bit more work and I barely had time to do the work that I was doing at that moment. So sometimes it was a little swamped. So that was probably a really big change.
I think another one is a new starter theme. That's another big one in the last year. And another big change actually is we have been using advanced custom fields a lot more. Has anybody heard of advanced custom fields? Okay, so like half the room. It's basically a plugin that allows you to add more options to your pages, posts, or your custom post types. So for instance, if you want a subtitle on every page, you could add a new field to all your pages and save that meta information and then output it in a different way. If somebody wants to talk about that after, that's fine. But that's actually that's more of a process change, but we used to do everything by hand because we trust it more. But at the same time, if there's somebody else who's built something way better, that was something there's no way we would have to make a whole new department just to solve that problem, then don't reinvent the wheel, essentially. Yeah. Yes.
How do you explain to your client the difference between adaptive and responsive?
There's an awesome GIF on that. That's and
It's not looking right.
yep,
What I want.
yep,
Right.
and
It's responding.
yeah, and and it really is two completely different things. And I've been on calls where they will tell me, "Oh, I know what responsive is," and they start talking, and I'm like, and yeah. So sometimes you want to correct them, but at the same time, like for a while, but I haven't done it. But it's like maybe have a little video that says that's in 30 seconds or a GIF. Just send it to a client. It's like, by the way, your site has like mobile detection. It's not really responsive. You know, so it's
I get that a lot. I think a lot of clients are confused between a mobile site, like a separate mobile site, and then responsive design. And I think we're still learning, even as individuals, not even just as a team, how to explain that. And it's very hit and miss with certain clients. Some clients are like, yeah, totally get it. I'm on board with you. And other clients are like, I just want it to look nice on a cell phone. That's it. I don't even know what a tablet is. I don't care. So it's really hit and miss. I think we're all still learning individually how we best communicate that with our clients. So just say, it'll work on a phone and a tablet. There you go.
You guys do adaptive designs for them if they ask you?
Generally we don't. I mean, no, I'm just going to say no. Responsive is always better in our opinion, and we're getting really good at that. And you know, and we essentially what we try to do is present ourselves as the expert when we're talking to our client and say, hey, look, trust me. Like, and if they don't know the difference between mobile or detection and responsive, and they're like, well, I heard this, or I just make it responsive. And even if they don't appreciate it, I think it says something. And when other people go to that site, they're going to appreciate it a little more.
You don't want to charge them more if they ask for adaptive?
All of our sites are responsive now.
Yeah, but if they want adaptive, they say, I want this to look a certain way.
That's come up yet for us.
No, it hasn't come. I don't think it has come up.
So that'll be something we'll have to kind of grow with, I think, if it comes up. I don't think I've heard any of our clients ask that yet. So at least now we'll be thinking about it when the client calls.
The question in the back left corner.
How do you prioritize projects?
Oh, geez.
You mean like when we get a project all at the same time, get 3 projects approved in a day?
Ouch. Agile development, I guess.
We're still learning that too, honestly. You know, we recently went through kind of like a role shift where these 2 guys are taking on the large picture projects, and I kind of come behind and clean up everything at the end. So the customer gets sent the beta link. They're like, hey, all of this list of things doesn't work, but Max needs to get on to the next thing, because now he's used a week of his time to do one project that was approved. Now he's only got a week to do the next one. So I come in and I fix those things. So I don't know if there's been a real prioritization, unless we've had to communicate with the client like, listen, you've asked for 2 sites, we need to do this one first. And just be honest with the client, like, hey, this is when we can start your project and it cannot be today.
Yep. I think that quickly, that ties back into communication a little bit. So if you know that you're not going to finish something in time, and I think that happens to all of us every once in a while. If you know you're not going to finish something in time, what do? You can wait and try to cram and work overnight and extra hours, or you can just call ahead of time. And I'll tell you right now, if you call them 3 days ahead of time and let them know, or let them know compared to letting them know the day before, totally different situation. And
just be a human being. Everybody's a human being, and everything happens. And treating your clients like a human being really, really goes a long way.
Yeah. Yes.
Do you do all projects on a 2-week turnaround?
That's kind of like an internal goal. It's not the expectation that we give to our clients. We usually like to give a little bit more breathing room. We want to, we don't want to overpromise and underdeliver. We want it to be opposite all the time. Yeah. So we set the goal of 2 weeks when the client might be expecting 4. And then if we say, here it is in 3 weeks, they're really, really happy. So that's just kind of our personal goal. Like, let's see how fast. And I know that we all kind of, I've even heard them sit down and say, we both have a responsive site to do and something that we're backtracking on. Let's see who can do it faster. And you get that kind of like fun atmosphere when you're not over-promising to your client. You know what I mean? So that's the 2-week part. This is internal.
Yes, question in the front.
Doesn't we have templates that you can reuse? Is everything custom?
Yeah, everything's custom. We build everything from scratch, but essentially we have a starter theme, and we have a list of plugins that we use on every site. So that automatically reduces the work a little bit. And if we're doing something like, for instance, in responsive design, you always have to have a mobile version of your menu. So that's something we've actually gone a little further, like to make sure, hey, let's make sure we have a couple different styles for our mobile menu, so that way whatever design comes out, we can adapt it to what they built.
So certain elements we are able to reuse to save time, but
Yeah.
we try to really make a custom solution for everyone because everybody's got different needs.
Yep. Yes. Hey.
You guys mentioned the success team. How does your team work with the success team?
Success coordinator.
Yeah.
We have we interchange quality assurance person with success coordinator. I guess it's like the same thing. But since we're so small, that's just one person, so it's not even a team. And she'll come in and she'll say, "Hey, how's everything going? Let's take a look at this," and just really kind of be the person that's overlooking everything because we're so into something. And that also follows with our Agile Development that we're recently starting in the last couple months, 3 months.
Yeah.
And that's communicating with her, saying, "Hey, can you please look at this? I got to start on something else. And can you run through some QA stuff?" So that's the success coordinator and QA is interchangeable for us.
And I think it comes back to like the designer might have a certain vision and the developer might have a certain vision, but if you're not so dedicated to that project, like if you're a random person coming into a site, can you actually use it? Is it actually usable? So somebody who hasn't touched any of the code or design coming in there and actually trying things out for the first time, and does this make sense? If she can't figure out how to use it, is our client? Probably not. Yes.
How do you guys deal, you talk about the timelines, how do you deal with it when sales quotes one timeline that's unreachable, like 4 business days for a customer request design is responsive, and you have to go back to the customer and tell them that that's not possible? Do you guys go back and tell the salesperson to go back?
Depends.
Yep.
Very much depends. I think usually, just as individuals, we try to take a really hands-on approach. Once that client comes into our court, so to speak, we want to cater to that person rather than sending them constantly to somebody else to talk to. So it's like they've already talked to sales, maybe they've talked to their designer already. Let us be the last person that they're talking to, unless there's like a real problem, like they're very, very unhappy. Then I definitely don't want to deal with them. They can talk to sales all day.
And I guess one thing we've been doing a little bit recently, if we can't give a good time quote and say, okay, like I know for a fact this is going to take this much time, and usually you're going to ask for a little bit more detail. But I think one thing that we've been doing a little bit more recently is actually adding discovery time into things where we're not sure how long it's going to take to build. So if I've never worked with something before, so another plugin I've never seen before, or somebody wants me to fix an error on their site that I haven't built, generally we try to avoid that. But if that's what they really want, then we can charge some discovery time to actually jump in there and start testing some things, and then it allows us to have a more accurate time estimate.
And our sales team is really good about coming to us first. They talk to the client and they say, okay, this is what we want done. And then they sit down with us and say, this is what our client would like done. What do you think, in your expert opinion, is the time? I think that might also be another change that we've recently done. But they're usually really, really good about coming and talking to us first. So if we quote a time that is too short, that's definitely our own fault. So discovery time.
Whoops. Yes. Hey.
With regards to communication, how do you facilitate a creative process when you're brainstorming or trying to give everybody an equal voice?
I don't know. I guess every time we've sat down to talk about things, we're really, really not close, like buddy, but I guess we are. Sorry, I didn't mean to.
How dare you?
You know, we could all probably sit around, play some video games, and talk about stuff. So it's very, very open and dynamic. And you know, David's totally has so much information, and a lot of times I might not be the idea person, and I'll kind of try and rein him in. And he knows that I don't mean anything negative by that. I'm not trying to say, hey, your ideas are terrible. I'm just trying to say, hey, maybe that's... And then Max is always super agreeable. I mean, just everything. He's just like, yeah, that's a great idea. So I don't know that that's an issue that's come up for us personally, where we have not felt like our voice was being heard. You know what I mean? So we've always had... we respect each other a lot. And even though David's been here the longest, and Max and I definitely, you know, bow down to him and all his skill and knowledge, he makes it a point every meeting, every day, to ask us what we think. How should we change? And so I think that that's just a lot of good personality.
Yep. And I think it comes back to having a good fit. Like, if you all believe in the same thing, if you're all passionate for the same cause, like that just goes, like if you have to let somebody go because they're not a good fit, then you know that's what you need to do. So it is a case-by-case basis. Yes. Yes.
Do any of you guys work remotely every now and then, or how do you do it?
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yep.
Sick days.
Sick day. Yeah. Sick. So I mean, if somebody's sick, you know, and they're, you know, then I think they should totally have the option to work from home if they can do all their work from a computer. You know, I mean, so I've had where I've legitimately been sick, but I have a big project, and you know, and I don't mind. Like I can sit in bed and work on it that day. I've gone on a vacation before and like worked 2 days while I'm out there, and it kind of helps. You know, if I have the time. But I think that, you know, that just helps make sure that I'm not like, you don't hear from me for a week. So even just having that one day where you come back in and help out, then, you know, I think it's helpful.
And a lot of that's communication too. I think if you're working remotely, even if you're not a developer, we have some sales team and support staff that's remote. Communication is even more important. You need to just tell us. Tell us about what you had for breakfast. Just talk to us about anything to keep us in the loop of how you're doing. Because I know that if he goes to WordCamp San Francisco, we have to be in communication better. And we have, you know, tools for that, you know, email, Skype, you know, all that stuff. But definitely communication. Just have to really get on that person who's being remote, and they have to reach back.
There's a company that's out here that's called WP Valet, and they all work remotely. You might want to connect with them. And tomorrow there's a talk on working remotely at the very end of the day, and he's a very good speaker. I definitely suggest him. Yeah. Anything else? We have time for maybe one more question. Yes. Oh, okay.
Sorry about that.
No problem.
If I understand correctly, you talked about the way you adopted better processes for you and the things you deliver. So in the end, your customer gets a better quality product. But in my experience, this means a product that costs a little more for them too, because it takes more time to deliver.
Yep.
How do you manage that change in your pricing or your existing customer?
We have done a little bit of price adjusting, but rather than getting into that, what we did end up focusing on was, because we did have those moments where it's like, we've spent way longer than we anticipated on this project because they wanted way more after they saw the beta than going into it. But at the end of the day, you kind of have to swallow that cost. Because by the time you're done going back and forth with that client saying, you only paid for this and now you're asking for this, you're wasting your own time even more going back and forth with them, and now they're not having a product, now they're unhappy, they're not going to recommend you again because you're, you know, and even if you're like, you're really asking a lot out of me, they're still walking away disappointed. So it's a little bit of give and take, I think, on that one, if I'm understanding that. It's
I suppose right now you charge more for a customer side than you did a year and a half ago.
Yes, we upped our pricing.
And that you give a better quality product, but quality in the website is mostly invisible to the customers. So
It's important truth.
how do you sell that to your
Honestly, we get a lot of our stuff through referrals, and it's not our quality of the product that really stands out to our clients, and that's why quality wasn't really in this talk. It's what really makes our clients refer us is the way we communicate with them, the way we collaborate with them, and the way that we're willing to change based off of what they want. And let's say they ask for a feature that's way over the top, and something that, oh, that's going to make us, that's going to be 1-2 days of full development just for that one feature. But swallowing the pill is you're gonna be able to use that on your next site and use it again on your next site. So there's been some projects where I've started using them over and over and over again, and yeah, so it sucks at first, but a few months into it, you're doing things that are way better and you're able to charge more because of it. So it was definitely took a while for us to get to that point. So it was a lot of swallowing pills, and we got to the point where, wow, this stuff is awesome. We can totally up our pricing a little bit. I think it's a good time to do that. So
Thank you so much for
thank
coming
you.
out, guys.